Bad weather may have played a role in delaying a controversial rocket launch from North Korea today. Officials in South Korea speculate high winds are the cause, but authorities in the north say the launch is still, quote, imminent. And they say it'll happen sometime before Wednesday. This has a number of nearby countries on high alert. Protesters gathered in Seoul to voice their anger over the possible launch. North Korea says it's an experimental communication satellite, but some suspect the move is actually to test a long-range missile. South Korea has set up task forces to respond, while Japan has deployed its anti-missile system. Officials in North Korea say they will retaliate if the rocket is shot down. Donald Rickerd is an associate director with the Asian Business and Management program at York University. He's been following the latest out of North Korea, and he joins us now from Toronto. So, Mr. Rickerd, tell me a little bit about, they say that this satellite, we'll call it a rocket, because I guess we all don't really know exactly what it is, that the rocket is ready to launch anytime. What can we expect if it does, in fact, launch?
Well, there will be intense speculation as to just what has been launched into orbit. The rocket that is launching the device is one that's been tried before unsuccessfully, so there'll be a great deal of interest in whether or not this time the rocket fires properly and puts the communication satellite into orbit. The confusing part that has stirred so much speculation is that apparently the same type of rocket is used to launch both a communication satellite and maybe eventually a nuclear device. The Taepodong-2 rocket is an enormous piece of equipment, and perched on top of it is a device that appears to all intents and purposes to be a communication satellite.
So what's your sense? I mean, if in fact it is a communication satellite, North Korea is saying, well, that's all it is, it doesn't mean any harm, then you see Japan, South Korea, other countries getting very upset about all of this. Are their concerns legitimate?
Well, it goes back to the famous resolution 1718 that the United Nations Security Council passed in the year 2006. And partway through, the references are to missiles. And in the latter part of the document, the latter part of the resolution, references to missile-related devices. And it's a field day for speculators to determine just which of those clauses applies. It's my guess that if the launch is successful, the overriding interest of most countries will be to get the six-party talks back on track, and that there will be an effort made by a number of Western nations especially to make the sanctions more rigid and to apply them more forcefully, because when they were applied before, it was with a great lack of determination on the part of a number of North Korea's immediate neighbors.
What do you think the motivation is from North Korea's standpoint? Is this an innocuous launching of a communication satellite, or does it have more potentially nefarious consequences down the road in terms of actually being able to put a nuclear device on top of this?
Well, I think really in a way, North Korea, which is a very, very tiny country, 22 million people, it's probably trying to kill 3 or 4 birds with one stone, to mix metaphors. Undoubtedly, it is trying to test this rocket that in which it has invested an enormous amount of money. It's a very, very poor country as well, suffering from food shortages. And
but the 4th largest military in the world, right?
That's right. Over 1 million people in uniform. I think it's also trying to give itself a bit more muscle in the six-party talks. It must feel very isolated there. All 5 of the other parties have asked it not to do this, and it's proceeding in defiance of both advice from Russia and from China, which is really quite remarkable because China is its great supplier of food and oil. I think also it is a country where there's an incredible amount of induced patriotism. We've all seen the television shots of the great parades in Pyongyang, and the media in North Korea 24 hours a day pumps into the population loyalty to the dear leader and that they're building a great and powerful nation.
So how dangerous is this potentially for the world, do you think?
Well, I'm sure that Japanese people are going to be nervous as it goes overhead, but I think it is one step forward as far as the North Korean military is concerned, but it will take a long time before they are able to reduce the size of their nuclear devices to the extent that they could be put on top of the Taepong 2 rocket. The miniaturization is a very complex matter, according to scientists, and I think they'll be back at the six-party talks, although they've threatened to boycott them if anybody interferes with the launch.
Donald Rickerd, good of you to speak to us today. Thank you very much.
Okay.